Yeah, I broke the cardinal rule. You never are supposed to count your how much you spent, but I did, and honestly, do I regret it? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got, I'm going to say some unfortunate news, and that is that we're going to end up putting junk back in storage. I brought him out here to the barn here to get him ready to drive to where I could reliably drive the car to a meet or something, just something where I can enjoy it out of the storage. Similarly to how I use the RSX, at least until the house situation is fully resolved. Then we'll get back to our normal chaotic endeavors. This video is kind of I guess a season close thing, which is going to be a new thing for me, living in a place where it actually snows and where it gets cold enough that they have to salt the roads. Typically, from what I've seen on average, in terms of doing some research, that usually happens around the 1st to 2nd week of November. This is the last week of October as I'm filming it, and you'll probably see it right about the time that I'm talking about, November 1st through the 7th. Instead of me waiting until the snow's on the ground, or the salt's on the ground at least, I'd rather get this car to where it's going to sit for the rest of the winter and just be good. Unfortunately, that means we're putting junk back in storage. Before we get to doing that, though, I want to kind of put a little bit of a cap on junk as a project. Although we're never going to be done working on this car because it's a skills car. It's a cheap car we got, and we put a bunch of time and money into it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how much we spent on it, or a ballpark estimate rather, and some of the things that we bought for junk over the years. Maybe even a couple of clips we'll put in here, just to kind of show you guys what makes junk so special, because he sure as hell don't look like it with his shitty bodywork and everything else. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about junk and the breakdown of what makes him so special. So junk is a non-SI EH2 1995 Honda Civic hatchback. It does have a K20A2 with a Garrett turbo on it. The transmission is a 6-speed case with EP3 internals, so it's a 5-speed, which makes it good for turbo shifting ratio, right? So higher, taller gears. This car is kind of a mix of good stuff where it counts and the cheap stuff where it's like whatever. So we Garrett turbo. It's got Weisco pistons, Manley rods, SuperTech valve train, 95-pound springs. I mean, everything we could have done to it, it had something done to it. It's an 86.5 mil bore, so it has a little bit more piston size to it. The drain on this is actually Motion Raceworks, because I kept having drain issues, so I just said, screw it, spend the money. The full race manifold, that's probably the piece de resistance on this, because if you get a bad one, they tend to creep. And then they do stuff like put the wastegate on the turbo housing. Of course, our mounts, these are Haas ports. These are the black ones you get through JHP USA. Wastegate and blow-off valve. These are VS Racing. You can get these through, I believe, Summit, which is where I got mine. So there's a lot of stuff like that. That's all good stuff. And we'll touch more on that here in just a second. But this is a basic overview. Inside, we've got some Corbeau seats. These are just these are relatively cheap. They're Corbeau Forza fixed back seats. For a set of these being about $1,000, I mean, they're expensive, but they're cheap when it comes to a seat. Energy wheel, that's something that's not even on my list. But we got a complement of X Series AEM gauges. We got K Pro, and a lot of like the injectors and the fuel pump. Those are Deechworks. K2 fuel rail, fuel regulator, stuff like that. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna tell you how much we spent on junk. So I'm gonna make this kind of quickish, but cause I mean it's already 50-something degrees out here. My ass is freezing on this stool, and we're just gonna do it rather quick. Let's talk about junk. So like I said, junk's a 1995 EH2 Civic hatch. I got it for $350 from a buddy of mine named Dalton. Probably the most ADD person I know that comes to cars, because he goes through them like underwear. This was one of them. He had a Captiva Blue SI, and he needed, I think he got it for the interior parts, honestly. And then this one was going right back out. He was gonna go send it to the junkyard, I believe. I don't know what the story of it was, but when I got it, it had some like Fast and Furious like setup in the rear with a fiberglass rear bumper and the Euro style taillights. We just ripped that shit off because that was bad. That was really bad. It had no motor. I'm pretty sure the core support was bent. We shopped that off with the angle grinder pretty early on into the project. But before the car came the motor itself. This was a project for my RSX. Initially in the beginning, the RSX was shedding some kind of brass style material, and I thought it was bearings, and I thought for sure the motor was going to need a rebuild. So we started this whole project. The engine was actually never meant to be in a car like this. The car just came and the stars aligned. We bought this K20A2 for $150. I had another one that I bought that was a Facebook Marketplace deal, and it was like $700, and it was a similar deal, but it had so many problems. It was a basket case. I still have the block and the head, but there's a lot of problems with it still, and I don't know if the block will ever see the light of day, but the head's still good. So we took this head, took this motor, we broke it down here on the channel, way back in the beginning, and we broke it down and we ordered some parts for it. We bought flat top pistons, so 86.5 mil bore Wiseco pistons. They were flat top for good combustion. I bought those, so Wiseco pistons. We bought some Manley H-beam rods, just something that's like they weren't the Turbo Tough brand, but it seemed to do quite well for so far. But we took all that. I wanted to take it to a machine shop to have the bottom end blueprinted. So when you go with a turbo engine or turbo motor, you want the rings gapped a very specific amount for blow by, or basically the looser the rings, the looser the motor, the more boost seeps past and you get issues, and it's just generally not a good time, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So I didn't know what I was doing with blueprinting or any of that, so I took all my parts to a little shop called Low Cash. Just the work at Low Cash for them just to put everything into the block, the pistons, the rods, polish the crank, all of that, and just make sure everything was good. They decked the block, a couple thou, I think it was like 2 thou by the time they were done. Just making sure everything was good to go. And so that was about $1,700. It was $1,650 just to get the block taken care of. The head work, we took that to Johnny Rackley's just because it was closer to us and it was a completely different time. If I would have had all this done at the same time, I probably would have just taken it all to Low Cash. So from there, this is where things start to get expensive. So we have 4 pages of parts here, and the number one most expensive part of this build was the full race turbo manifold. 44 millimeter wastegate, Pro Street manifold, so sidewinder. And that full race manifold is no longer available. Fun fact. The next most expensive thing was the seats, the Corbeau seats. Those were, like I said, about $1,000. $936 is what I have on my sheet here. Third most expensive thing is the turbo, and we bought that from Full Race, and that was $822. The ECU was purchased through a parts seller that specifically deals with K-Series. I'm not going to say who it was because I had an issue with them. So K-Pro was $690 with a supplied ECU. So I had an ECU, I think I bought it for $100, and then I took it and sent it off to them. Next was the Skunk 2 Mega Power RR catback. It's a 3-inch straight through setup. So there is a resonator, there is a straight through muffler, 4-inch tip. It's very, very similar to the HKS high power I put on my RSX. Good exhaust, love it. And it's stainless, that's the best part. The next bit of kit was the Hasport EGK2B. The B is the black. So Hasport did a limited edition engine, or not a limited edition, they did a special colorway of their mounts that if you wanted a black anodized mount from Hasport, you could buy them through JHP USA. And that's exactly what I did. Next thing was the SuperTech Super Combo. That include dished race valves. That included springs, retainers, seals. I mean, anything that worked in the top half of the head that involved the valves, we did it. Whole freaking thing was SuperTech, and that was $585. And I'm pretty sure I got that one on like a Black Friday deal. Another thing to note too is that this has been over 6 years of purchasing stuff. So a lot of this is like pre-COVID levels. And then on top of that, a lot of these I bought when either the time was right or because they were doing a giveaway and it was just like, oh, hey, I need a fuel pump that gets me like 1,000 entries to go win this car. And it's like, okay, done. Case in point, the my Deechworks 1200cc injectors, EV4 injectors, I bought those through Motion Auto. So if you watch Motion Auto TV, I bought those through them and had 0 issues. And I got entered for a chance to win a car. I think that was for their Evo build, and I did not win. The tires on this car were Falcon Azenis RT615K Plus. Those were $540 through Tire Rack. I am delivered and mounted myself. Wisecoat, the pistons. This is going to sound funny. I bought them on Amazon. I bought my pistons on Amazon. You heard that right. $495.80. Liked them through Amazon because I could get them in 2 days and just put them on a shelf and didn't look at them for another 2 years. Competition clutch. So we bought a stage 4 sprung clutch. I want to say it's a Kevlar clutch, but I could be wrong on that. $487 again through the parts dealer that specifically sells parts for K-Series. The rods, we bought mainly rods and ACL bearings for a total of $475. We bought those through Amazon. The insane shaft axles. This is probably the most baller part, and in retrospect, I kind of feel like I overdid it a little bit because when you build a performance build in front wheel drive, you're gonna break whatever's least built. And unfortunately, when you put in a 500 horsepower rated axle, which is what this car should be making when it's tuned, and you beef up your axles, that makes your transmission your weakest link, which means transmission is my weakest link, which means I could break everything in my transmission, and I'm not ready for that. But those were $446, and I bought those through Speed Factory. Thanks, Speed Factory. CSF radiator, $440. That was through the parts place that sells parts for K-Series. I bought a ton. When I was doing the intercooler, I had to buy a lot of tight radius parts, and I kind of splurged on a ton of things I needed to get. Couplers, like all the silicone boot things for all the intercooler pipes, all that, the clamps. So I went and I spent $363 at Summit Racing to buy a bunch of Vibrant parts. So a lot of the charge pipe kit came from not necessarily all the big pieces of pipe, but some of them came from Summit. I bought a metric ton of crap from Acura Peoria, specifically OEMAcuraparts.com. This is not a plug. I don't have any kind of affiliation with them. However, They use a system called Revolution Parts. Any of these dealers that sell parts online use Revolution Parts. When you buy online, you automatically save like 30%. So if you're ever looking to buy parts, whether it's Ford, Toyota, Honda, Acura, whatever, Chevy, go look for one of those sites. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll notice that there's like a set template. Go look at OEMAccuraparts.com. They're all using Revolution Parts and they all offer that massive discount. So I bought a lot of this stuff through that, including I bought a bunch of seals, water pump, and miscellaneous pieces. I had to buy the stupid detent ball and the spring like 5 times because my idiot ass kept putting in the detent ball holder with an impact, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was the wrong length. So I kept pushing the ball into the bolt and it kept ruining it. So don't do what I did. Oh, the ATI Super Damper, I bought that on Amazon. That was $329. Flywheel for the competition clutch, it was $299. I bought a heap of 3-inch and 1.7-inch. I bought my V-band, my flex, my flanges, my reducer. All of that was from Amazon. A lot of that was like Stainless Brothers stuff, so it's still quality. Some of it was like China junk, but it was the same spec in terms of size and thickness. Maybe not in terms of the metal content, but it worked out just fine. We bought thermostat parts, so I'm guessing a lot of the housing stuff, that tube, a lot of the stuff, I ended up not even using it. $262. I had to buy a 0204 engine harness for this engine because I didn't know 506 that I'd gotten from a local deal. I had bought that on eBay for $220, so relatively affordable. K20A2 fuel rail, $213. Again, the parts place I won't name. I bought it when I started this, I was optimistic, going, "Oh yeah, it's got an engine harness, or it's got a harness. It just doesn't have an engine because this previously was a K-swap car." So I went and bought a hybrid racing K-swap adapter. The only problem was that the entire wiring in the front of the car was shot. So we ended up ripping it out and rewiring it. JHP USA, $208. We bought ARP head studs. So that was probably another, I think that one was a Black Friday deal. I kind of went ham one year for Black Friday. Timing chain tensioner through OEM Accurate Parts, $200. We had to buy new rear calipers for this car because the ones I got from the Integra swing arms when I bought them locally, they were shot. Those were $197 on Amazon. The AAM oil pressure gauge, $189 on Amazon. A new oil cooler, the little round thing that the filter screws through. That was through OEM Accurate Parts. It was $185. The K20A2 fuel pressure regulator, $179 through the parts place I won't name. AEM wideband setup, the UAGO, I don't know exactly. Oh, it's a 30-4110. We bought I want to say it's an EM USA intercooler. Something simple, same side intercooler. We bought that on Amazon as well. That was $162. I bought a XS power battery on Amazon for $159 that leaked. And as you can tell, that is not an XS power battery. That is a Duralast. So we bought EBC brake setup. I don't know why this one, because I have a section for brakes, so this might be a little bit off. Or this was probably the front. I don't know. $158 from buybrakes.com. I bought new bumpers, the front and rear bumper covers. I bought those on eBay. It was $157. Scut 2 front camber kit, upper control arms. The the front ones in this, they needed ball joints, and I didn't know what the hell they were. Some eBay special. I put something a little bit more reputable in it. AEM boost gauge. Bought it on Amazon, $140. I had to buy a charge harness for this car, which then I immediately shredded into a bazillion pieces. The only thing I needed for it was the alternator connection to the battery, and it plugs into the other harness. So that was $139 on eBay. The rest of the brakes, $127. K-tuned upper radiator housing. So the CSF radiator I have is a universal radiator. It was really meant to fit a Evo, but I bought it just because it was a generic radiator. It was a half-size radiator. It's a beefy unit, but it's got AN connections. So I wanted to use those AN connections so I didn't have to dick around with rubber hose hell of trying to figure out how to pipe it and go find pieces and then put stupid joints. So I just did AN. Vibrant Dash 16 parts. I ended up buying that through Jegs because I couldn't get it through Summit for whatever reason. It was $122. We put some cheap Amazon K-swap shifter. It's like the MSCHR whatever brand. China #1. It's a K20A2 clone. That's $119. We put some sort of NGKs. I don't remember the code, but I do have it on here in spark plugs. We ended up buying 2 sets because one to run, one for tuning. 1 step colder, I believe. So they're $117 for a total set of 8. Motion Raceworks. So we bought a lot of our charge pipe from Motion Raceworks again, probably during a time where they were doing a giveaway and points got you entry to win. That was $100. I paid $100 for a box of pipe. Fuel lines. We did a lot of fuel line stuff that was really simple from Evil Energy. So Evil Energy parts. We did spend $100. Simple. We got a Hondata 4-port Mac valve, which is just a Mac valve that we bought from Hondata. It was $95, and that was through the parts place we won't name. VS Racing Wastegate was $95. That was through Summit. A bunch of AM parts through Summit. We bought some more stuff from Acura. VTC filters, full valve filter, O-ring, gaskets. That was $94. Hondata 4-bar map sensor, $94. Random bulbs and terminals as $93. OEM coolant line. So this is the part where I was saying we didn't even use all of it. Starter, we bought that on Amazon. It's $87.70. Arrow catch, $86. Head gasket. It's a chromatic. I forget what the thickness is, but it's a little bit thinner than what Joe told me to run. I don't care. This part. This was a giant kick in the nuts. When I was doing the front, the upper connection on my radiator, a vibrant connector for that is $50. I stripped it out and I wanted the car to run that weekend. So I went to SCHQ. I had to go and buy a Fergola fitting. That's a kick in the balls. One fitting was $80. I bought a bunch of power wire for a welder to do all my wiring. It was 4 gauge, $79. Stop Tech brake lines front and rear, so we're stainless braided. It's $76. We bought new hubs and bearings for front and rear. That was $73. Stuff. There's literally like, I want to say there's 2 more pages of stuff that's under $40. A lot of that doesn't sound too bad. And this is the part where you're going to spit your shit out of your mouth because we ended up spending a whopping total of $20,727.85 on everything.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
It even includes the car. So what we're seeing right here, it's a $20,000 bill right there. This is about, other than the exterior itself, this is about as legit as you can get for a car build. There's still room for a lot of stuff. When you see these cars that are like really over the top and like showpiece, yeah, those are some really expensive builds. I mean, for a $20,000 build to look like a piece of crap back here, a lot of it depends on the base of the car that you start with. And the good news is that this whole setup should transfer into any EG Civic. Yeah, Junk's $20,000 build. That's a lot to whatever. Yeah, I broke the cardinal rule. You never are supposed to count your how much you spent, but I did, and honestly, do I regret it? No, I don't regret it because I've learned a lot. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at a lot of the stuff that I have bought specifically just for this project and learning, and that's what I wanted to do. For me, it wasn't even so much about the car. It was about learning the skills to build a car like this. I don't know. I'm hoping in the next 6 months we'll be able to start another build, and that new build be something a little bit more serious. But that's going to be after we get the house, which hopefully is coming soon. I don't have anything after this. That was a lot of build up for nothing other than This is my $20,000 hunk of crap. It makes cool noises, and there will be more of it soon, but I want to come out here and film this. I'm starting to freeze because the sun's going down. It's getting cold. I'm going to go back inside, but I hope you guys like this video, or at least got something out of it. I don't know. I'm just trying to keep the YouTube alive at this point. It's not doing too hot anyways. It hasn't for a while, and realistically, I feel like it's not going to until I get something else to build, or at least bring the RSX back, because I think that's what more people want. I'm trying to get back to it as quickly as possible. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.